kind on your screen.
Yeah, I'm just putting this back. Okay. Twitch. All right, so our voices should be live. We should be all clear right now.
Awesome. Welcome to Zenith, everybody.
Yeah,
For those of you listening in, who do we got? So we
just
got
a
Emmanuel.
couple right now.
Yeah, Micromancer, so maybe we'll give it another minute or two for everybody to come on in.
Yeah. Oh, we just spiked up to 7 viewers, so I assume
Woo!
we're going to be getting more in the coming minutes. And then we'll start diving into this.
Cool.
So how you doing
Exciting
today?
times. I'm doing okay. Was kind of a scramble to get all of this up and going, the stream and everything, as you're aware, but we did get my mic making audio again, so that's good. Because
That
for a
is
moment there, yeah.
very good.
For a moment there, I had a very expensive brick that looked like a computer.
So those of you that are in chat right now, I'm just going to go over what our plan is for this stream. So we are going to basically, Beeranid, myself, and Ryan are going to be going over the Zenith packet, basically kind of front to back. And once we are finished showing you the primary and the format and the secondaries and the deployments for the missions, after that we're going to be doing a Q&A with chat. So we'll be taking questions from chat, answering them, and basically just trying to help you guys through this as much as possible. So this is we've been working on it for literally months now. There's been a lot of playtesting. It's been a ton of work, and I am very personally proud of what we've come up with here, and I'm really excited to see this in the tournament scene.
Yep. And so kind of what the original idea for this was, for those of you listening, to kind of open it up to the public as an unveil. We'll have the TTS maps and the packet available for you tonight through the Command Point Discord. And basically the hope is that, we run through, like Shane said, we've done a lot of testing. We've been working on this for a long time. But now we open it up in the beta phase to you. And you are now the play testers who are going to take this on and do some work yourself. And the hope when I originally kind of conceived at the open house that this is what you are part of right now is that after we run through the packet, if there are questions, comments, things like that, you could type those to us in the stream. We can compile those, and that now becomes the foundation for the beginning of the FAQ that we can work on as this is in beta step and take this, and make tweaks if things need to happen. Like if something's too good, then that's what's going to happen. If something's not good enough, we can talk about that. And if there's just procedural questions, how does the door work, this and that, blah, 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 we want you guys to be asking that later on so that we can tabulate all of that and then come back and make an actual document for you.
Yeah, so we're starting to get some viewers in here.
Cool.
Before we get in, Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I think right now we're trending at 17 viewers.
Great.
A lot of activity in the chat. A lot of people saying, "Oh gosh," I'm seeing people wanting Necrons banned. I'm seeing people wanting Godfrey banned. Make Deathwatch viable, people. Please, and thank you. That last one might be a thing.
Yeah,
depending on how playtesting goes.
Yeah, the hope here was to create a packet where we genuinely feel like you can play just about any team.
Yeah.
And if we can accomplish anything even remotely close to that, I would consider this. I would consider Zenith a success.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think we can start. We can start going down right now. So I am gonna scroll down to the first section of the packet right now, and we can talk about that. So first, we're gonna start with like the basic tournament rules. Obviously, the roster and everything is gonna be what you would expect. Beeranid, do you want to talk to us about the terrain that we're gonna have here at at Zenith?
Yeah, so when we get into the actual boards, there's a couple little things that we'll touch on just a little bit more in depth, but basic format is arena. Why arena? And and what is probably supposed to be like a very balanced pack? Well, because a lot of times when you look at open boards, there's a lot of things like terrain scumming, things like that, reserves that there really isn't too much of an answer for sometimes. Just a lot of things that have caused TOs to need to go in to make changes that sometimes create more problems, like, oh, there's going to be floating models that just hover as if they could and to move there, and then overlapping bases and things like that. It's been a challenging thing for TOs. As soon as you go outside of arena, and GW, this was their main thing that they said, look, we envision for competitive kill team a kind of a 2D thing. And so that's kind of what we're going to stick with for this one. Now, the interesting thing is that even though this is arena, we think that these rules could be used for open board and things would be okay. But Zenith is 100% arena, which is the first bit of news for you guys.
Yes, and we have rules. I see people are talking a little bit about it in chat. We have rules for the muster. A lot of this is going to be transferable to IRL tournaments. If anybody ever wants to run the Zenith packet outside of the TTS realm. And as you guys might notice, I guess the first big reveal after Arena is Zenith is 125 points. Kill team.
Yep.
We are moving past the 100 points and going back to 125. And the way I've seen it is 125 has kind of always been, in my eyes, a format that allows more to work.
Yeah. No, it's something that allows more versatility, allows Zenith is supposed to be the highest point of play kind of scene, the highest level. And what we found at 100 is that lists were kind of samey. They were kind of focused in on one similar kind of a task that a lot of teams were able to focus in on better than some of the other ones. So that cut down on versatility. It was also it was a bodies game. A lot of times, even if you talk about kill and kill one and hold one, hold more and stuff like that, a lot of times at 100 you see bigger lists and longer games, as funny as that sounds, than 125. At 125, people aren't afraid to take that big scary thing or something weird, something new, and that's kind of what we were hoping for with this.
Yeah, and another thing with 125 is I think my experiences of playing 100 and playing 125 is I think elite teams become a lot more viable at 125.
Yeah.
Regardless of scoring format, I think there is an avenue for elites to work, whereas at 100 it becomes very difficult.
Yeah, and that seemed to be the kind of consensus as we've lurked in chats and talked about things to people that didn't even necessarily know that we kind of were gauging for this, that 125 seemed to be both what community wanted and kind of what people felt was viable. And we've had a couple of 100-point tournaments back to back. The format's cool. It's just that this allows you to do more. It's something that people seem happier with. They seem like they can make certain things work that they wouldn't be able to at 100, and that's kind of a big part of what we were hoping that this would be about, was you at your best, more things being viable, maybe surprises on the board, stuff like that.
Yes. I guess we could talk about scoring and the primary objective, which I think we're going to get a lot of questions about, and it's probably something that people have looked to the most. So I guess before I get into this, I do want to say that one of our goals with this was to align ourselves as much as possible with big 40K, and sort of not just big 40K, but with what Games Workshop gave us for the competitive format, and rather than coming up with a lot of homebrew and a lot of like crazy wacky stuff, there's been a lot of fun formats over the years, but we want to try and stick to what GW's given us, and instead of kind of reinventing the wheel, trying to build off and improve on that. So for that reason, we have decided to go hold one, hold two, hold more with a 9-point cap on the primary.
Right. And a big part of what I have thought, when you see the elites, maybe that's the first thing that comes to mind is elites might struggle here. Number of objectives on the board matters a lot, and the secondary objective format matters a lot. And that's something that a lot of people kind of leave out of the conversation. and focus in on, it's the primary, and it's like we put so much emphasis on the secondaries for so long. That was the tiebreaker, all this stuff, and it's like we look at that, the tiebreaker of a game being secondaries, and then they're random. You could have gotten screwed. You could have gotten a better draw than your opponent, something like that. It was just like a really big thing to kind of look at and to play a part here. But yes, parity with big 40K. It's something that we know works. It doesn't seem too broken. Like elites can hold. I've won tournaments as Deathwatch. I've won hold tournaments as Astartes and stuff, little RTTs and things like that. So I've seen it happen. I've seen a 20-man Gaunt spam list against Deathwatch become 3 shaken models by the end of turn 4, and a winning victory for the elite team in hold. But that had extenuating circumstances. There was other things contributing to that, other than the fact that it was just hold. So,
yeah. So I wanted to say, for anybody that might be seeing hold, and might be worried about elite teams, there's 2 things that I think are going to offset this. One of which we've already talked about, and that is 125. I think that hold at 125 is a very different experience than hold at 100, which we've kind of seen as dominated by horde teams, and the elite teams really struggle there. But the other thing that we wanted to talk about that is going to really help these kind of specialized teams that want to be really good at one thing is the secondary format, which I'm going to take us down to right now. And so this is open choice secondaries. It is a 9-point max. You pick 3, and you pick any 3 from this list.
Yep.
And what I've said basically in the past is with the GW arena module that they originally gave us, in the secondaries that they gave us, instead of coming up with a whole new set, we tried to take what worked and keep that the same, and then try and build on little things, and then add a few more options, just to, I guess, allow for the most flexibility possible. So
right.
Do you want to go over some of the changes that we've made to some of these secondaries?
Yeah, and another thing. Yeah, let's just jump in the secondaries. That's a good place to start. So, like Shane said, rather than reinvent the wheel and come up with homebrew, we kind of tried to look at what was there that was good, that didn't seem too broken, that could interact in different ways, that multiple teams might be able to take to do well with. But we did change a couple words of some things. For example, in the Bay Area tournament simulation, we saw, for example, with cut off the head, the way it was worded, there was a game with James Skinner where he overcharged plasma, killed his own guy, and then the other guy did not get points for that because the wording was, if you killed that enemy model, you got the points. Well, he killed himself, therefore he didn't. It was some feel bads, and it wasn't really what was intended when we wrote that up, and we were playing that packet the way it worked with quarantine and everything hitting when it did. We didn't think BAO was going to happen, and then it came on, and we were kind of playing a beta pack, and we got to see some of the issues that were in there with just like wording here and there, when you do something versus when this model dies and stuff like that. So right now we're all in WWO mode. Something that is different from that is the addition of Vicious Assault and Hip Shot. So most other things are going to be similar to what's been going on with WWO, with the addition of those 2. So we have gone from 12 secondaries to 14. There was packs in the beginning of the game that had 18. Then it became kind of a arbitrary decision to get down to 12 because that fit on a page better for a lot of people. But we found that it wasn't kind of enough, and so we added those 2. Vicious Assault's a really cool kind of a aggressive positional kind of a thing. It's something that's open to quite a number of teams. Like Tau can get that with shield drones. Corn Berserkers can take that and do well. So it's something that's really cool. So those 2 got added, and we changed some wordings. Like, for example, cut off the head is now just a flat 3 victory points if the enemy leader is taken out of action, and it says for any reason. So if you overcharge a plasma, the other guy's going to get that point now, or those 3 points. And it also gets rid of like the weirdness that we saw in packets where, for example, it says score 5 minus the number of battle rounds and this and that, and it's like seems like basic math, but there's that issue is you're making people count. And then in the pack, it said you can only score a max of 3. So we've had like the secondary saying one thing and the pack saying another. This just cuts all that out and says, look, kill the leader. If you can do that, you're getting the full 3 points. There's also the consideration that this is arena. They can hide a leader. It's harder to get that early. You might get it, last turn or something, and then it's only a 1 point thing. So in an arena format, we found it wasn't being taken very often. This should solve that. So that's kind of cool. And then there was the change to
high profile. Was the
high profile. So high profile, what I tended to do a lot of time was catfish, is what I called it. Like I would go and it gives you a point for every model that you kill. But what I found for every specialist that you kill, what I found is that I just wouldn't take the max specialist. And a lot of people were doing that. So you would take that. You don't know what the opponent's going to bring until after you've already chosen your secondaries. So there was some feel bads with that. And that is now gone away. So if you kill a specialist, you get a point. But if all the specialists, no matter how many were mustered, were killed, if they took 1 and you kill that, that's the max 3. If they took 2 and you kill that, that's the max 3. If they took 3 and you kill that, that's the max 3. If all enemy specialists are gone, max 3 points. I don't know what happens if they don't take any. We're going to have to FAQ that and think about that there. But that's at least an improvement from where we were, I think. So starting at the top, I guess we'd say attrition, right? At the end of the battle round, score 1 victory point if more enemy models and friendly models were taken out of action. Why is this one cool? Because a lot of people liked hold 1, kill more, hold more. And this kind of starts to allow you to do that. If you kill more, you can take this secondary. If you know that you were good at 125, hold 1, hold more, kill 1, kill more, all of a sudden you're kind of back there with this secondary. So it was kind of cool to leave that in to allow you guys that really like that format the ability to still play in that sandbox a little bit. Next, we have bounty hunters. When an enemy model is taken out of action, this is a standard thing. We see you guys flipping your models a lot of times, but we want you to actually place a token in contact with that base if you can before removing the model this time. And the player that takes the model out of action gets to place it because we want that high-level play. We want them to be thinking about, did I position to be able to pile in and consolidate and stuff like that in the right spot to be accomplishing a few things at once. So that's bounty hunters up in here. We have cut apart, which is the standard score 1 VP if 1 or more models in your kill team made an attack that took an enemy model out of action in that phase. Cut off the head, we already talked about, max 3. Death from afar. This one, you can score multiple times in one phase. That's going to be a big thing because we have hip shot in here now, and people are going to think, why would I take hip shot? And it's something that has no penalty, anything like that. Well, some models can do both, so maybe you take both and hedge on that. We wanted to allow that versatility, that viability, and also we wanted it to be where, look, this is arena. We have to make this secondary still viable. So basically, shooting is at a slight disadvantage just from being an arena. So if you can set something up, you take your crisis suit or something who's got 3 guns and you get set up that perfect thing, you can max that turn.
Also,
so it is. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was going to say one thing I wanted to say was the hip shot. It is once per round you can score it, whereas death from afar, like you were kind of saying, you can hypothetically just max that in one shooting phase, like in the first round.
Yep. So that's an important thing. Hip shot, it's a little easier to score, but you can't max turn 1 like you can with death from afar. Death from afar, you can max super easy, or easier, quicker, I should say. Terminology matters. But you're at a disadvantage a little bit by doing that. You'll be at that -1 to hit from being long range. And also, the FAQ is going to state that grenades and flamers and stuff like that can score it here because, like we were saying, the way it's written, before you had to be suffering a long range penalty to take that point. So grenades did not count. A lot of people were giving themselves points for that illegally. But now you're just okay to do that. Because people were scoring it that way anyway. It didn't seem super broken. Just let them do it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have domination, same as always. More enemy models within 3 inches of the center of the battlefield than there are enemy models within 3 inches of the center of the battlefield. Engage on all fronts, again, same as before. You get 3 board corners. This one, again, if you're in your DZ, you can only count for that back objective, or that back wall, I should say. There was some stuff about being in a corner and it didn't say which one was which. That's going to be FAQ'd into this pack, where it's only the back edge that's part of your DZ. If it's completely within your DZ, that you're able to score that. So like the original kind of intended scout the field. Let's see. Got high-profile targets. Again, we talked about this. As long as all enemy specialists are taken out, regardless of the number originally mustered, you can max now. So there's no more catfishing. Not in this one. If you want to take your 3 specialists, take your 3 specialists. It's not going to hurt you to play the game as intended anymore. And then hip shot, like we said, you can max, and it takes 3 turns to max this one, but it's a little bit of a more advantageous out of the gate way to do it. You're not taking a penalty to get that. Recon sweep, we kept it in here. This is one that we've debated on. You guys will have to let us know. Like we said, this is about feedback from the community, what we're doing here right now. If you guys, we would like you to test this and let us know what you think. But we do think it is still possible on some of the maps to be getting recon sweep. Certain teams are able to do it. You can build for it. Maybe I take jump pack Astartes instead of just foot slogging Astartes and dedicate myself to getting this. We wanted to leave that possibility in there for you. It's not as easy without the reserves and things like that, but it's still a positional that you can take. And then thin the ranks. So again, like we talked about with the killing 1, killing more, thin the ranks is kill 2. That's a standard thing. Kill more, attrition can be kind of open-ended. Could be infinity models that you have to kill. If they kill 19 models, you got to kill 20 to score attrition. Whereas, thin the ranks is just 2. So a lot of times people think that that's the more efficient way to go and take that. But you've got both. If you want just to kill more, you want to play, like we said, 125, hold 1, hold more, kill 1, kill more. You're able to do that with that secondary. And then vicious assault. I love this secondary. I think that we think a lot of times in terms of positional and offensive. And this is like one that bridges the gap. It's part positional, part offensive, and it's open to so many teams that I'm happy to see it in here. And it's just something that stacks with some stuff. Maybe you can find some cheese and some things to work with that will help you max.
I just wanted to, now that we've gone over all of them and the fact that it is open choice, I guess for those of you, and I know there's probably going to be some of you that are still a little bit, you see hold, and you get a little scared. Let me paint a picture for you. Your elite team, which is now 125, so you're playing Deathwatch, is one that people talk about as like a struggling team. Not only are you getting 125, so you can bring more models, but your Deathwatch team is able to take cut apart or bounty hunters or thin their ranks or all 3 or attrition, and they can put more resources into what it is that they're good at. Whereas those positional teams that are going to be a little bit more hoardy, that might be afraid of the break test, they can lean on the primary and they can take the positional secondaries here, and we're trying to get the most out of basically all the factions in Kill Team. I think just about any team can look at this and see something. Even like the joke is, when is Kroot going to be viable? How do we make Kroot viable? I'm not saying Kroot is going to be a great team here. I don't think they could possibly be a great team anywhere. But with Kroot, you could do something here. You can lean on a Kroot horde and scout the field and domination and vicious assault maybe. The idea being that we want every team to be viable, because when we create packets, and we've seen this over and over again, that demand flexibility, it is the Drakari show or the Eldar show or the Necron show every single time. And packets like this that allow specialization, that allow your team to spec into what it is that they're good at and get victory points out of that, I think allows for more teams to ultimately succeed.
Yeah, and it allows those teams that we have gotten used to seeing something out of the same old for several tournaments in a row to lean really hard in another direction. Like, you can lean in this packet. You can just, like he was talking about with Kroot, you can just go pure positional, and you've got, you're going for that hold 3, and you're taking max bodies and things like that, and you're scoring, recon sweep and scout the field. You're getting vicious assault with your multiple charges, stuff like that. Yes, your guys are going to die, but you're scoring points, and you know what? We've allowed you to max in 3 rounds, which we found is crucial for the horde teams. If it's a 21-point cap, for example, it's just like you're going to break, and there's still so many points left on the board for the opponent to score that it's like, why even have bothered to play the other 3 rounds, basically? This doesn't do any of that. So there's lots of good here. and I think a lot of teams are viable. Like Shane said, you can really lean in as Deathwatch. One thing, guys, as you're listening to this, is you're going out now because you are the play testers. What I would like you to do is try the elite staple of hold 2, deny 1. That's how you win as elites in a hold, hold, hold format. Because even if I only hold 2 objectives, if I shoot you off of one of yours, or fight you off of one of yours, or contest, and so the point is that you only have 1 or something like that, or maybe none, whatever it happens to be, as long as I have more, that's the more. I can score that with 1 objective. I can score that with 2 objectives. And if I have 2 objectives, and that's still more than what you have, all of a sudden that's a max for you. And I think it's something that a lot of people overlook with teams like Deathwatch and stuff, is the fact that as elites you can hold and you're killing, and now you're able to score points for what you're good at. Elite, Deathwatch is so efficient when it comes to removing models from the board, and you're scoring for that if you want that to be how you do it.
Okay. Was there anything
Great.
else about the secondary that we wanted to talk about, or do we want to move on to the boards and the deployments?
Before moving on, we've gotten a couple questions in chat about secondaries that I think it's best we get to them now before we move on and forget about them. One question that we got was basically, do specialist retainers such as Gottfried or Ryan and Rouse, Pius Vorn, do they count towards the scoring for high-profile targets?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It is still a max of 3 on that secondary, but yes, like killing Gottfried will get you a point towards high-profile targets.
Right.
Okay.
Or Pius Vorn, for example. So they can take 5 specialists. That's a buff to them, but it's kind of a double-edged sword because now there's more opportunities for the opponent to be scoring, that secondary off of.
Yeah. Another question we got was, how does cut apart interact with fixed bayonets?
It has to be in the fight phase.
Yes.
And since fixed bayonet is taking place during the not during the fight phase, it would not count. Correct.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So cut apart specifically says in the fight phase.
Yeah. The last question I think is for Scout the Field. Are we doing rules as written, like in World Wide Open, where it's 1 inch from the actual board edge, not the wall, or 1 inch from the wall itself?
That's
If
one we're
that
probably going
makes
to need to
sense.
discuss. It's been 1 inch from the actual board edge in so many comps now that that's kind of what we had defaulted to when thinking. But if you guys are play testing and you find that that's something that you would like, let us know and we can discuss that. This is going to be a lot of listening to you on this, guys. So tell us what you want. We will go in there and try and evaluate that. You can give us feedback yourselves on what's happening in your games. If you want to test it a different way, try that. Come back to us with feedback, and we'll listen to it. But for now, it was kind of intended to be the way it has been for a while.
I think we've got one more question here. What are the dimensions of a bounty token going to be?
1 inch.
Assume, yeah, 1 inch by 1 inch.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess let's go down to the deployments.
Go to the boards.
Yeah. So because the main Zenith tournament is going to be like a 4-round tournament, 16 players, we are going to have 4 boards, 4 deployments for the tournament packet, and we're going to utilize each arena board, and we have 1 deployment for each of them that we have looked at. So I guess starting over here with Catacombs at the top. 5 objectives. We have 1 in the middle. You guys can see the layout right there. Something noteworthy that we have decided on for Catacombs, because one thing that we noticed playing a lot more on WWO and just looking at the other arena boards that aren't Garrison Vaults and Generatorium that we were very used to during BAL, Catacombs and Catacombs and Armorium have some issues. There are some doors on those boards that feel like they kind of harm gameplay more than they help it. Yeah. So starting with Catacombs, the big middle pit room that everybody kind of just swarms to on that board, we have actually gotten rid of the doors entering that room. And I'm not saying doors open. I mean, there will be no doors there. So you can freely walk in and out of that room. And another bonus is it creates another firing lane on a map that otherwise doesn't have many firing lanes. So
Yeah.
I think that was a net gain rather than having all these scenarios where you are basically hoping for the 5-up on a door
Yeah,
to
like we
stay
just saw
closed.
it, in this tournament that's currently ongoing. We just saw that, like, for example, when I played my round one, I was Tau and I didn't fire a single shot. It's a very non-interactive board, and door shenanigans are a thing. There's still doors on all of these maps. There's ways to game the system, but that just had there were situations to get in where there wasn't a lot of answers, and that could be a bad matchup on top, things like that. That maybe you just, because you wanted to play this faction, you just had nothing to do if this board came up. So it's something that we're hoping to try that hopefully goes a little bit better. There's going to be more interaction now, and like Shane said, there's also a firing lane on top of it now, which is something that we hear a lot of complaints from ranged teams on.
Yeah, and then over on Armorium, we made a similar change. There are those kind of middle rooms on either side of the of that middle hallway that are near the deployment zones. There was 2 doors on each side of either of those little rooms on like the north and south sides. And we also got rid of the doors there. For us, there was just too many doors in such a small area, and those rooms end up not getting utilized at all, especially if there's not objectives there. So
Right.
we threw those doors out, and again, this creates more firing lanes for range teams, where range teams might struggle a little bit, and it's going to open up the board just a little bit more, I think. And Armorium is kind of a board that I think gets the most complaints, and I think those doors are, whether people realize it or not, might be a big factor in kind of the negative play experience.
Yeah, it's like there was, for those of you guys listening, for a little bit of insight on that, there was just no reason to go in those rooms unless there was an objective there. And if there was an objective there, it was very hard for the other player to interact with that. And that's not necessarily a terrible thing on its own, but when you start to put it into like how far that is away from the DZs and things like this is all, there's a lot of intention here about like the objective placement and the DZ placement and things, and like how far things are from each other and what you can see once you're there. That those just didn't really fit in. And one thing that we were trying to work on was utilization of a full map, because a lot of times, there's been things like it's really hard to set up a nice board, and there oftentimes ends up being just dead zone, and we didn't really want that. We wanted there to be reasons to be on this side of the map and then this point and things like that. So hopefully this accomplishes that.
Yeah.
As you look at this board, like right outside of your DZ, you're looking at that objective now, whereas you wouldn't have been able to before. Coming out that DZ straight ahead, looking at that door, you pop that door, and now you've got a gun looking at that, perhaps, where it would have just been a door before.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, eliminating dead zones is a really important thing to point out, I think. We really were trying to make every part of the board something with
Yep.
these maps. So I guess we can move on to Generatorium and Garrison Vault.
Yep.
So unlike Armorium and Catacombs, these maps we didn't feel had the level of problems and complaints. So we kept the doors on here the same. There are no doors removed or added. we haven't added any doors, don't worry. But no doors were removed. And I guess starting with Generatorium, this is the only one of the four missions that has 4 objectives rather than 5. This is mostly due to the fact that it's kind of difficult to put a center objective on a map like Generatorium.
Yeah.
And I think as it is from our playtesting, we weren't really running into issues there.
Yeah. No, there's just a lot that's good about this map, especially when you take and swap the objectives, like the deployment zones. The way we have, like the deployment zones, if you see how they're in the corners in the rulebook, they are flipped. And so, like for example, as a melee team, you're starting really kind of far away, and then there's a door right in front of your DZ, so that slows you down too. Like it just a lot of times in arena, one of the things you hear is that the first turn is a lot of nothing happening. So you're still kind of far away. It still gives shooting teams the ability to move into position and get a good spot. And, you can move to take objectives. There's 2 very close to your DZ. And again, we were intentional about where that is because some models only have 5-inch movement, things like that. We wanted you to be able to grab stuff, but you're not also then locked behind a door and things like that. Like, you're going to now be getting points on turn 1, and, there's firing lanes and stuff like that. And you've got the melee team hugging cover and moving up and stuff like that. There's the avenues of approach still that are fairly safe. It's just a decent setup for this board.
Yep. And then down on Garrison Vault, this is a deployment zone that I haven't seen anybody do before on Garrison Vault. And you guys might notice that there is an objective in your deployment zone here. This is the only map on the packet that has anything like that. And again, kind of the emphasis on we wanted every part of the map to be useful. So those side hallways that are normally kind of no man's land, we put objectives right in the center of those. So there is now incentive to go there, and you only have to reach the center. You don't have to run all the way to the other end of the hallway and kind of get stuck doing nothing. The doors on here, again, weren't a problem. We kept all of those the same. And yeah, I mean, this is probably the best one, I'd say, on the packet for something like a recon sweep.
Yeah.
And,
no, this is the whole reason
yeah.
to leave recon sweep in, is that it's like most teams could get that here.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing about it is that out of the book, there was a deployment zone where you were in those far halls, and it again contributes to not a lot happening turn 1, door shenanigans, and the fact that once you were out of that, there was no use to be in there anymore, really. And so this kind of gets you out of your DZ. Yes, there's an objective there because some of these are going to be hard to take. Is every team going to go fight to the death, tooth and claw for that center objective? Probably not. But the other 2 to those wings are within your grasp. And hey, if you wanted to stack recon sweep, this is the board to do that. And there's happens to be an objective in their DZ that you can go try to grab too.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty cool little setup here. I like it. You've got multiple choices. Like, let's say you were going to use a veteran to do a door. It's like, which one do you do? Because there's several doors here that are tempting you to go for it. And there's a lot of reasons to do that. Each one is a compelling argument, to put them all the way to the left, all the way to the right. One of those top doors, go for the center. Try to block their door up by their objective. Stack guys up there for next turn's charge. There's reasons to utilize any of those doors and to go in any direction right now, rather than just like one. Oh, I'm going to pop the door just to get out of my DZ. This became a very spicy map in playtesting sessions, and one of my favorites.
Yeah. So that is that. I mean, that pretty much concludes the packet. I guess now we can move on to the the FAQ, the questionnaire section.
Yep.
So Ryan is going to be taking questions out of chat, and we are going to be trying to tackle them as best as possible. In the meantime, I guess, yeah, I mean, one thing I guess we could talk about that we kind of glossed over, we did establish our tiebreakers. In Zenith, if there's a tie, it's max primaries and then max secondaries, and then after that it's points left on the board, and the team with more points would win. The reason for that one being the third is because it's very unlikely that you're going to stay in a tie at that point, and just about any other tiebreaker past the first 2 is usually going to be a bit odd anyway. There's not going to be a perfect one. So
yeah. Like, we saw it with Ibericon, where it was like, that was the first time I saw it, where there was exact ties on 3 different tiebreakers. It was like, so what's something that nobody else is going, what you're very unlikely to tie on a third time, and that also is a potential indicator for how well you did in the game over the course of 4 rounds played. And we didn't want it to come down to that die roll. So it was like, yeah, what about the amount of points left on the board in terms of what you mustered? So I took 125 points. If I still have 125 and you have 30, I probably did better in that game than you did.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. It was just something that we could point at that didn't feel RNG and stuff like that rewarded play. I don't know. It was just what we found to be something there. But like we said, you guys let us know what you think about it and your testing. And again, this was a prompt for you guys to start giving us questions if you have any. If not, we'll let this go another minute or two and then close out. But so let's see. Micromancer, it looks like, is saying doesn't need to be fully ruled on now, but I'd like an official ruling on Berserker's interactions with decisive strike type tactics. Just want to make sure it makes the to-do list. Thank guys, really excited for this pack. Great work. Yeah, we got to talk about that. That is something we could see it going either way. For now, in tests, let's try it how it has been, and we'll discuss on that and try and get that in the preliminary FAQ as early as possible. But yes, there is a edge case that a decisive non-charger Berserker would get to go twice. It's a possibility. So it just kind of depends on what we find. If we find that's super broken or not, you know.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out in chat too, Clay, for what it's worth, guys, there will be several blitz tourneys for Zenith. Zenith will be a valid packet for ranked play on the ELO ladder. So
Yep.
regardless of whether you anticipate making Zenith or qualifying for it, anybody can still play on this packet. There will be blitz tourneys running this packet. So yeah, I guess just don't assume that you don't get to play on it or anything. And on top of that, like we said earlier, these rules, the skeleton that is these rules, when you take away the deployments, can be used on an open board.
Yeah. So the too long didn't read version, guys, is that all of you are going to be playing on this pack. You know, if you're looking for pickup games, this is probably the pack to be playing on for a while now, because you know it's every packet seems to have a little issue here and there. You know, the random secondaries, things like that. It's RNG. It's not really as much skill and stuff. And this is kind of what we want for the ELO. We don't want random. Oh, I rolled a 5. Oh, I got lucky on a card draw. You know, it's the skill. It's the getting in there. It's the viability of different things. Lots of things can be taken. Things like that. Like so even if you're not in the main event, there's blitz tourneys that yes you should do, and then also this should be what you guys are doing for ranked, you know, until you're sick of it, because this has just had a lot more work than anything else. And I can say that as somebody who's tested for at least 3 TOs now, to help them get their packs out. That the amount of work that has gone on in here, and oh, by the way, you guys were part of that. You know, over 9 months of quarantine, you guys were playing games that we were able to take notes and look at, and you know, you see us in there quietly watching your games and things like that. This is your packet too. So embrace it, take it on. We hope that you guys really like it and that you can get in there and play with it and have as much fun as we hope you will with it.
Okay. So it looks like we've got a question here from Emmanuel. Where are you guys in the Evil Sun's interaction with the rerolls before modifiers deal? From what I can tell, it's the only interaction where you're forced to reroll a success. Maybe some other examples, but this is the only one I am aware of.
Yeah, this is something that I think we're gonna have to put in, I guess, what would be like a tournament errata or a tournament FAQ. There's certain things like they shall know no fear, where we say basically remove the word failed from the wording. Evil Sons, I think, is another one where we are probably going to look into just removing the word failed, because every other, most other, I guess, reroll charge abilities that factions get do not specify failed. And having to reroll a successful charge is something that is obviously not intended.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Clay has a question. If we do some pickup games and have feedback, what's the best way to give it to us?
DMs would be cool. I think that there's going to be a WWO feedback slot thing in the Discord. You know, kind of like where if you look right now, there's WWO, and then there's all this kind of stuff in there, like announcements, this and that, blah blah blah. My hope is that we have one of those for Zenith too.
Yeah, we'll be setting up a Zenith 2021 tournament packet, I guess, like Dropbox for you guys to drop all your further questions in there.
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah, if you guys can keep chat to a minimum in there, that would be great. Like if you want to do rules discussions outside of it, that's great. But if you could put in a, if there's a Discord channel made that says Zenith FAQ questions, if you could keep like discussions about Pokemon and stuff like that to a minimum, that'd be great. We want to get those questions and be able to get to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really easy. I'm guilty of that too. That it's just you get off onto a tangent and you're talking pretty soon about how you paint your models, and it's like whoa, this was a rules FAQ thing, and so we don't want anything getting lost. That's the thing. We want every possible thing that you guys can come up with to try and break this game factored in, and it's not necessarily that it gets removed either, because it's okay to be good. Like I think that that's a fundamental philosophical shift that we need to take with this game. Like LVO, Tyranids win. Everybody wants to ban Tyranids. How did that go for you guys? Are Tyranids that big of a problem, having not been, banned and all this stuff? Wanted, 7-point Hormagaunts and things like that. The meta changes over time. So it's okay to be good. If there's a snapshot in time where something is good here, that's okay. Give us your questions anyway. That doesn't mean that we're going to go in and hard nerf it. Okay? It's just let us know so that we can rule on the interaction for you, so that you go in there armed and there's not going to be feel bads for your opponents and things like that. Like what Micro was saying about the Berserker charge. That might be too good. We don't know. But they deserve to be good. Heretic Starty should be viable. So that doesn't mean that we're going to go in as a hard no just because it's good. Just want to put that out there because I feel like some people might be hesitant to share cheese pre-tournament with the hopes, the belief that it'll get nerfed, and that is not the case. Okay? So just kind of keep that in mind, guys.
Yeah, there are going to be other things like kind of like what Emmanuel is talking about with the here we go ruling and having to re-roll a successful charge. One thing that we're going to try to do as far as things like that is to kind of try to apply common sense rulings to if there's like a game-breaking thing, kind of like They Shall Know No Fear, that is obviously not as intended. We are going to try and, I guess, patch note that, so to speak. Get rid of those little things. I think sometimes following rules as written, like a Bible, is not the way to do it. But if it's not something that is game breaking, then yeah, I mean, let's push it. Let's see what we can do with it. That's how we get cool things like Up and Atom and such.
Yeah, like we love rules as written, but you know what? Sometimes it says make a run move with this Gene Stealer cultist, and you look at the book and you're like, there is no thing called a run. And so you have to apply common sense and be like, oh, they must mean advance. And so that's what we would like to do, is to try and find the spirit of the rules, the heart of the cards, so to speak.
Just iron out all those kinks, basically.
Yeah.
All right.
So are there any other questions from the gallery? This is your chance, guys. Come get us. You have us live right now.
We'll wait for like another minute and see if we can get some more questions in. And then after that, we'll just wrap it up.
What I would like to do is to ask you guys at the outset to think about your team and the teams that you play, and think about looking at this pack. Is there something that allows you to play it, like a stack, something like that? Is there something that pushes them to perhaps be more viable than they were before? And then I want you to think about the things that you don't like to play again. Is there something that's too good? And if there is, I would like to know what. What do you see? Is it cut apart, mixed with, attrition, mixed with vicious assault? Let me know about it. Is there a free win that you see? Like we said, we want it to be okay to be good, but I also want to hear from you if something seems too good, and I want to know why. Like what it is that you think. So don't feel afraid to come to us with anything like that. Don't be embarrassed, anything like that. You're going to be taken seriously here, because this is a work from the heart, basically. And we would like it to be as fair and balanced and stuff as possible.
So some questions that we have are, people are wondering if LVO subfactions are going to be used in this packet.
Absolutely not. Those were brought up to be beta tested, and then they were not beta tested. The beta pack became what was used at that tournament. They were not play tested.
Micromancer wants to know what our thoughts are on 3/4 diagonal deployments. They tend to require more movement before there is a lot of fighting.
I think that would be something really cool to look at, but if it's what I think he's talking about, these boards are pretty set up now.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know if there's something with these setups that you find a problem with.
Yeah.
But maybe for like the next tournament, if what I think he's talking about is like the diagonal deployments and stuff, I think that's worth looking at and would be really interesting to play with, because he showed me something before that I thought was really neat. But for now, there's 4 matches of Zenith. There's 4 boards for Zenith, 1 match for each. I'd like you to go through with these and try to break them if you can.
Yeah, as far as the kind of diagonal deployments and the idea of there being more movement before fighting on the first round, that is actually something that I know a lot of people have spoken positively about when it comes to Arena, and I know people kind of bring up like the feels like chess comparison a little bit more, and I think that's a big part of it. And on top of that, I think it makes games go faster. So.
So we've got a few more questions. Would we consider adding LVO style subfactions if they undergo like play testing beforehand? So subfactions for sisters. That's
probably not. It's probably too late for Zenith at this point to do that.
Yeah.
It would be an entire other process of playtesting. I wouldn't rule it out though for the future.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we could do in the future, but I think it's a little late to be adding something like that to this tournament pack.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing about it is that a lot of that was added as kind of like a cheer up after elites did them dirty in terms of not giving them anything, but that doesn't necessarily equate to them needing something. You know, and when we, for example, give AP1 to Sisters of Silence or AP3, whatever happened to be, it was a random D3 AP, that all of a sudden, for example, you look at like Terminators, here we're going to 125 trying to make more things viable. Well, you know, now all of a sudden it's kind of took this thing that would work. You know, here's this faction that has no AP, so I take some Terminators and I go against them, and wow, I have like a 2-up save basically. They're just never getting through that, whatever. It kind of had some unintended consequences. So adding them just to add flavor, I don't think is a great idea. However, if there is something that is severely hurting that just cannot compete, I don't know what that would be at the moment off the top of my head, but if you find something like that, yeah, let us know. You know, there's also the consideration that some of these teams don't have actual sub factions in terms of Big 40K. You know, so maybe that might be why they didn't get anything in you know, Kill Team. I doubt that. I don't think GW put as much forethought as that into it, but it could be. You know, but for now, we're kind of like trying to take things as is, stick as close as possible to rules as written, take out homebrew and stuff. Like there was some cool secondaries that we could have added to this, but then it started to feel homebrew, and we wanted it to stay kind of official. Like a lot of these are just official out of the arena box, but now for the first time, you can in a major tournament stack and stuff and take them free choice things. Like that's something that has not been done yet. We've had these secondaries, we just didn't have them in the way that was most optimal.
Yeah. All doors will be starting closed in the packet.
Yes. Yep.
And then would we make any changes to data sheets in terms of max model counts for like factions like Crude or Elucidian Starstriders?
Not at the moment.
Yeah, no. I actually personally think that there are bigger balance problems than things like those data sheets, like certain matchups. Like I think like the first one that comes to mind is like Harlequins having to play against like Thousand Suns or Grey Knights or something is just it's horrible. It's having to play that. I would look at stuff like that before I would look at changing entire factions, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like for right now, if something says max 1 in your rule book, it's going to be max 1 in the tournament. Something like that. Like there won't be the 2 sorcerers or anything to that effect.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're going to wrap it up here for questions. If you guys have any further questions, feel free to either DM myself or Shane or Beeranid through Discord. We're also going to be setting up kind of like a Dropbox channel where you can submit any sort of, I guess, constructive criticism for the packet or questions on rulings that we can put into, you know, uh, building like an FAQ for this packet and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's basically going to wrap it up.
Yep. So the pack and the board mods will be available to you guys tonight. This is all ready to go and start being play tested. If you find problems with anything, please let us know. This is beta step. You are the play testers at this point. This is your pack. It was made with your help. Um, just take it and do with it what you can the moment, and keep in touch with us.
All right.
We wouldn't
Thank you
be here
guys.
without you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. The pack is it's going to be going live now, so you guys can go play on it. We'll be posting in TTS Tools the packet itself and the Steam mod, which has been created for us by Luz. So shout out to Luz. Thank you for making that for us. You are the man, as usual. So yeah, have a good night, everybody.
Take care, guys.